All Harry Potter movies bring the magic of J.K. Rowling's writings to life, which is quite uncommon for successful book adaptations. Even though the movies occasionally deviate from the original story, the core of the plot is still very much present. But we can't help but notice some Harry Potter characters don't live up to their descriptions in the book. Wondering which ones? Stay with us, we've got it all for you. Starting with the most obvious. In the books, Hermione is depicted as having bushy hair and big buck teeth. In the movies, her hair is one of the most distinguishing physical characteristics, but as time passes, it seems to be taming itself. Her hair, in addition to her teeth, is important to the development of her persona as the story progresses. She makes a few attempts to change her appearance, and when a spell on her teeth fails, it teaches her a lesson about vanity. Remember, Harry notices that Hermione's hair looks like she's done something by the fourth book, but in the movies, that distinct change is missing because Hermione's hair is already attractively wavy in the final films. We get it, details can occasionally be lost in translation. Casting performers who naturally resemble their individual characters can be challenging due to the nature of screen productions. Also, these actors literally grew up on screen, so their appearances changed in unexpected ways as they went from being kids to adults. For a brief period, Emma Watson wore false teeth, but she had to ditch them. That's why in the movies, there's no indication of deliberate modifications to her appearance. Next up is Neville Longbottom's glow-up. In an interview, J.K. Rowling stated she envisions Neville as being short, fat, and blonde, as opposed to the towering, dark-haired young man he grows up to be. With the exception of the hair, actor Matthew Lewis closely resembles this description in the early movies, and then puberty happened. Lewis's slender and towering adult body couldn't have been anticipated by the casting team. He initially plays a timid, awkward child and ends up taking on greater, braver roles as the novels and films progress. Let's not forget his greatest victory, the slaying of one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, the serpent Nagini. But the books take a different prophecy-based approach than Neville does. Harry ended up getting the job, but Neville was equally qualified, a point the movies make no mention of. We got to see him kill Nagini, so at least he had his day in the spotlight. With Neville, his physical appearance doesn't play a role in his character arc. Instead, his character evolution is determined by his increasing self-confidence. The glow-up was just a bonus for us. Now for Luna Lovegood. Luna's appearance is relatively close to how it's described in the books, but her overall look would have been much different if they'd completely followed the written description. The dirty blonde that Rowling chose for Luna is more like a platinum blonde in the movies, and her eyes are blue rather than the intended gray. Evanna Lynch, who plays Luna, doesn't have huge eyes that protrude from their sockets like they do in the official Wizarding World illustration. In the books, Luna's eyebrows are just as pale as her hair, yet in the movie they almost resemble brown. Having said that, there's no doubt she plays the character to the best of her ability, as we can't imagine anyone else as Luna Lovegood. Next is our favorite, Padfoot. Sirius Black's appearance is intended to appear sinister and ominous in keeping with his name. Gary Oldman has a compelling performance as a recently freed prisoner, but his physical appeal needed work. In the books, the protagonist has matted hair that stretches to his elbows, deep eye sockets for his dark eyes, and skin that is firmly stretched over his cheekbones. If Sirius had actually looked this way, he would have been more menacing, and it would be obvious he was starving both literally and figuratively just by looking at him. We still love you, Padfoot. Moving on to an obvious blunder. The books don't go into much depth on Lavender Brown's appearance. Instead, Harry focuses on how sentimental and delicate she is. In the movies, she's replaced by Kathleen Colley, who's later replaced by Jennifer Smith in The Prisoner of Azkaban. Until Jesse Cave takes the role in Half-Blood Prince, Lavender Brown doesn't speak or have any other significant role in the series. Multiple actors played Lavender because she was a supporting role until the sixth movie, making casting less crucial. In fact, the character's name was more of a formality to keep things organized on set, but the decision to make Lavender white was viewed as controversial and backed earlier assertions of the franchise's whitewashing of all the main characters. It makes no sense to have two black girls play Lavender Brown initially, but change her to a white girl when she finally gets an important role, does it? Next up is the friendly giant we all loved. Even though Hagrid initially makes an intimidating impression in the Philosopher's Stone, if he were the 11 feet he's said to be, he wouldn't have been able to fit inside the abandoned hut where the Dursleys had taken Harry. Hagrid's appearance might have too strongly contrasted his character if the production team had opted to be more accurate. Hagrid is 5 times as wide as a regular human, according to Harry. Hagrid looks to be about 8 feet tall in the film, despite Robbie Coltrane's diminutive height of 6 feet. He's still clearly bigger than humans, but he isn't as big as he is in the books, probably because it would have been impractical for him to have been so big, not to mention scary too. Now for the king. Only his hair color distinguishes Rupert Grint's Ron from the character's physical description. While Ron in the movies isn't very tall and doesn't have a long nose or any freckles, he's described by J.K. Rowling as being gangly, tall, and slender with these characteristics. Anyhow, aside from the few times Malfoy teases Ron for being being a Weasley, Ron's looks have little to do with his storyline and has more to do with his possessions and clothing than his physical traits. But we can't imagine a better Ron, can we? Here's a fun little tidbit for you. While casting the trio for their roles, they were each asked to write about their character. Emma Watson ended up writing pages, Daniel Radcliffe wrote one page, and Rupert Grint forgot to do the assignment. Needless to say, the three were a natural fit for their roles. Next are the Dursleys. With the exception of Petunia and Dudley's hair, the Dursleys reasonably correspond to their written descriptions. They have blonde hair in the book, while they have dark hair in the movies. This distinction is neither startling nor does it have an impact on the actor's interpretation of the roles. Vernon resembles the character's physical description to a T, even though this is probably because Richard Griffiths already closely resembled the role without going too far with hair and makeup. Dudley and Petunia's hair color had a little bearing on how they progressed in the series, and the actors' performances were enough to make us hate them for the bullies they were. How can we not talk about He Who Must Not Be Named? Even though Voldemort already has an unnatural appearance, his features seem distorted, hideous, and alien. If he had the scarlet eyes described in the novels, he would appear so out of character that it would almost be laughable. Sure, Harry Potter is a work of fiction, but even so, there needs to be a boundary between magic and parody. Voldemort's nose is the most realistic of all his features thanks to the visual effects team. Ralph Fiennes appears frightening and unnerving enough in the movies despite the fact his skin is intended to be a few shades lighter. And finally, the Chosen One. This is the one character whose appearance has the largest impact on the plot. He frequently hears remarks about how much he resembles his late parents. Daniel Radcliffe has blue eyes, but he's supposed to have his mother's eyes, which are green in the books. The significance of Harry's eyes is interwoven throughout the entire series. In the start, Daniel tried to wear green contact lenses, but they gave him severe allergies, so they had to settle for his unnatural eye color. The color of Harry's hair is also slightly incorrect, whereas it's always depicted in the books as jet black, it's brown in the movies. Harry's character isn't different as a result of this, but it might have irritated some ardent book fans when the movie first debuted. If Lily and James's actors resembled Daniel Radcliffe more, the emotional impact of Harry's likeness to his parents might have been stronger. This would have been more feasible than changing Radcliffe's appearance because of how briefly they appear on the screen. But then he played Harry Potter with so much conviction that even now, years later, you can see him in any movie and your mind will think, it's Harry. That's a wrap for this video. Which character was completely different from the books to you? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.
See you in the next one.